Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Rocky Mountain House regular council meeting for October 1st, 2024. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I just want to start with acknowledgement of Indigenous peoples. The Town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. Moving on to adoption of the agenda, do we have any changes to the agenda this morning? Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move item 10.7 to the organizational meeting on October 15th.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes to the meeting this morning? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Phillips?
I will make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. So we have a public hearing this morning. So we'll go ahead and get that started. I hereby declare the public hearing for bylaw 2024/13 open. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the Municipal Government Act in order to consider the proposed bylaw 2024/13. A bylaw to amend the Town of Rocky Mountain House Land Use Bylaw 2020/19 to remove the Municipal Planning Commission. At this hearing, the public will be allowed to make presentations to council, and all persons present who believe that their interest in a property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Those who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaw may address the council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Should council require clarification on any issue raised by the public, council will call on the staff to further clarify the matter. The staff's comments will be limited to technical matters only and should not be construed as support for or in opposition to the development. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council members today is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Any person who wishes to present a written submission to council may do so. All those submissions will be retained by the secretary, and copies of the submissions will be available upon request after the hearing. So I'm going to go ahead, and I see we have Ms. Hartling here. If you wouldn't mind introducing the bylaw, please.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. At the September 3rd regular council meeting, council gave first reading to two bylaws. One being the bylaw that's subject to the public hearing today, which is bylaw 2024/13. Council also instructed administration to advertise and to make arrangements for a public hearing on this date. The purpose of the bylaw amendment is to amend the land use bylaw for the purpose of streamlining and reducing red tape for subdivision and development authorities. Under the strategic plan, the goal as established by council is to reduce development delays and red tape, to accelerate development approvals, supporting council's goal to build the local economy. For the purpose of communication and engagement, the ad ran on September 11th, September 18th, September 25th editions of the Mountaineer. The notice was also placed on the town's website. The cost of having a municipal planning commission is minimal. Under the 2024 budget, $1,000 has been allocated towards the MPC. The establishment of an MPC is not a requirement under the Municipal Government Act and is only one of many options in which subdivision and development decision-making authority can be established. I did attach a table which provides some examples of other municipalities and what the development authority is for those, the subdivision and development authority is for those other municipalities. There's some details as well on that. I've also listed some of the benefits and disadvantages to having a municipal planning commission. Some of the benefits is that it does share accountability for decision-making. An MPC might prove valuable in relieving administration from making politically sensitive decisions. It also provides a second perspective on proposed developments and required conditions. Some of the disadvantages are red tape and delays to subdivision and development applications. MPC members typically don't have substantial planning background as well, and so it is very important if MPC is established or continued, that training would be provided. Under the amending bylaw 2024-13 to amend the land use bylaw, the changes required to accommodate the elimination of the Municipal Planning Commission are as follows. So under section, amendments were made to remove any reference to the Municipal Planning Commission, including any related portions. Subdivision and development authorities are updated to align with the Subdivision and Development Authority if changes proceed. Under section 11.10, Variance Authority, subsection 11.10.14 is added to install a cap on variances as follows. The variance does not exceed 25%. Any application for development that has a variance that exceeds 25% shall be refused, and the applicant shall have the option to appeal the decision to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. Under section 11.10, Variance Authority, subsection 11.10.2 is amended as follows. The amount of an individual variance under 25% is at the sole discretion of the Development Authority. There are, under section 11.10 Variance Authority, subsection 11.10.4 is added to require a letter to justify a variance application as follows. An applicant has submitted a letter with their variance application providing justification for the proposed variance. Note that submission of this letter would not guarantee an approval. And the purpose for that is just there should be some justification for variances, just in terms of adhering to our land use bylaw. Under section 11.10, Variance Authority, subsection 11.10.5 is added to incorporate a fee for a variance application. As follows. The variance fee is outlined under the fees, rates, and charges bylaw as has been paid for the variance request. The proposed fee that is being suggested should the changes proceed would go to the service level for review. Under section 14.2, general definitions, the definition of building height is amended to remove reference to the Municipal Planning Commission. As mentioned under the previous report, if the MPC was removed, an applicant or affected party would still have the option to appeal any decision to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board or to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, whichever is applicable. Subject to today's hearing, we have received some comments, and so we did receive a written comment after this report was prepared, which is attached to the agenda item, or to this area. I also received an email inquiry from a resident that they did not express support for or against the proposed changes. They just requested more information. And then we did have a resident that came into the office on another matter that did express concerns regarding the proposed amendments.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll go ahead and ask if anyone present is here to speak on the bylaw. Okay, thank you. So anyone in favor of the bylaw can come up and speak? Okay. So anyone who would wish to speak against the bylaw, you're welcome to come on up. So please let us know your name and address, and then just for clarification, just so people listening to it online can hear, if you don't mind turning your microphone on there. Okay.
There we go. I'm Alan Staffen, 6816 61 Street in Rocky Mountain House. I am not in favor of this bylaw. And the reasons are, the intent of the legislative public process is to create a transparent public participatory process, and you want to remove that. The perception of a conflict of interest on town council by two councilors who are realtors who want and could benefit from the removal of an independent third-party planning commission that reviews the development plans and replacing it with final approvals made in-house by council and administration encourages this perception of a conflict. A well-known saying, if a perception is allowed to persist, it will fester and become reality. The taxpayer should be involved in the decision-making process. Councilors with potential conflict of interest and administrative staff that are directed by the council and may not want the responsibility or liability for making these decisions and changes should welcome the views of a commission that is separate from council. Accountability has to be paramount in all of these decisions, as all taxpayers are paying for the process and will be affected by the outcomes. To short-circuit this process gives the definite indication that more is at stake than to simply streamline the process. I believe in red tape reduction, but that it's needed, but this reduction would be minimal at best in this case. And, I'm not after anybody in particular, but there is a perception out there because of the last couple of years and the not very good functionality of council at times, that this may be self-serving. Whether it is or not, I'm not there here to judge. I just wanted to make my opinions known, and for a neighbor as well who couldn't be here today, and that's pretty much it. If anybody wants to ask, or I'll get out of your hair.
Thank you for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions from council for the speaker? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Staffen.
Thank you for having me.
So moving on, does council have any technical questions for administration in regards to this? Councillor Schipel?
Yes, if I could, I'm just debating, I want clarification on the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board and who that is, and where that is, if somebody wants to appeal something.
So
And if it's another board that we have people on, so we have MPC presently, and then by elimination of MPC, are we just creating another board where we have somebody?
through acting mayor to council.
Thank you.
So our Subdivision and Development Appeal Board is a regional board. We do have a member from the town of Rocky Mountain House that sits on that board. It's basically made up of members from Central Alberta via PCPS out of Red Deer. And so any appeals go to them. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board is an appeal authority. It is volunteers. It's not made up of staff and public members throughout Central Alberta.
So if someone was to appeal something, then they would have to leave town
No,
to
they,
do that, or is the appeal here in town?
yeah, the appeal would be held in town, but it would be made up of whichever voluntary or whichever board members would be available. So we did have an appeal last year, and the appeal was held here in council chambers. And there's a clerk that attends the appeal as well as the public members of the board. And so it is held in town. So if an appeal was made in Rocky Mountain House, the members come from Central Alberta. There may or may not be a member that sits within the town that sits on that appeal board for that particular appeal. But the appeal would be held in town. So basically what it is there's several municipalities that belong to this regional board. when an appeal is called, there's a call that's put out to the appeal board members as to availability. And those appeal members will attend whichever municipality is subject to the appeal.
Go
Is
ahead
there-
if you have more.
Is there a cost to us? Because in this case, in your report, you've indicated that we could save money by the elimination of MPC.
Well,
And so I guess I'm wondering, are we just shifting costs from one committee to another committee? If there's an appeal and those people come here, how is no cost, some cost, any cost?
through acting mayor to your Councillor Shippold. The report does not indicate that there'd be a savings. The current cost for the MPC is minimal. Our budget is $1,000 for the MPC, and the point of that is just to identify that the cost of the MPC is not significant. The appeal, the SDAB is in existence at this point currently. So anyone could appeal with the MPC. The MPC could make a decision, and a person could appeal the MPC's decision as well. It's not an either. It's not that it can go to MPC or it can go to the SDAB. Currently, it could go to the MPC could make a decision, and then it could be appealed to the SDAB. So it would be basically another step. It's, if the MPC was removed by council, the SDAB would still exist to address any appeals that were brought forward. So in terms of it transferring, I mean, it would depend on an application, and I can't speculate as to whether an application would be appealed or not, because technically an appeal could exist with the MPC or without. I hope I'm answering your question.
No, I'll try to reword it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to find out the cost of the subdivision and development appeal board to us.
Well, the subdivision and development appeal board, there would be a cost. So and that cost exists with or without the MPC. So any of the public members that attend do get like a per diem or whatever for attending the SDAB. There's also, if members were to come from outside of town, there'd be mileage costs. And then depending on if the clerk comes from another municipality, there'd be a cost that would have to be paid for that appeal clerk. But again, those costs exist with or without the MPC. If somebody were to appeal, it would appeal a decision of the MPC or of the development authority, that cost exists currently. Those costs exist if an appeal is made.
Mr. Kraft?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. Maybe just to put it a little bit into perspective here. So we are required on the MGA to have a subdivision development appeal board. So that cost is going to be there regardless if we have an MPC or not. But it's council's choice of how we form that subdivision development appeal board. So currently, council has selected that we belong to a regional subdivision development appeal board where each municipality in the region looks for volunteers, puts volunteers forward. They go through the SDAB training. And we also have our legislative clerk as a volunteer on that too. So she can be called out, and she has been, to subdivision development appeal board hearings in other municipalities, and then we're compensated for her time. Council can also say, you know what, we want our own local SDAB, where we would go to the public and ask for volunteers to be on the SDAB. Council can sit on the SDAB, but cannot form a majority. If council wants to bring it local, then we would have to get the volunteers for the SDAB, which could be members of the past MPC. But we would be required to put them through training for the SDAB, I think, which is a 1 or 2 day course that when it's offered.
Thank you. Does that make sense, Councillor Chabot? Okay. Any other questions for administration on this? Otherwise, I am looking for a motion to close the public hearing. Councillor Musker.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Thank you, Renee. Okay, so moving on in our agenda, we have a delegation this morning from STARS Air Ambulance. We have Ms. Farndon and Ms. Paquette here with us this morning, so please feel free to come up and have a seat. And then when speaking, if you don't mind just turning on the microphone, that would be great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. We're very pleased to bring you further, more in-depth information about STARS. I take it that you all have this in front of you there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we'll just get started. Maybe just a quick little bit of background, if you don't mind. I've been with STARS for 18 years now and working with municipalities, rural and urban, across the entire province for those 18 years. Also working with councils in northeastern BC. So going to be bringing you more information about the municipal initiative program across the province that has helped to support STARS all of these years that it's been in place. And Shannon has recently joined our team. She's out of the Edmonton base. I'm out of Grand Prairie. And she previously was with community engagement and a lot of the local events throughout the area, so she's very familiar with your area as well. And now joining our municipal team to help support reaching out and bringing, working closely with councils. So we'll get started. Next year, STARS will be celebrating 40 years of serving Albertans and always maintaining as a charitable entity, so there's no cost to the patient. This has not been possible without partnership. I'm sure that everyone is aware, that STARS, our mandate has always been bringing critical care and saving lives. With the latest in technology now, we are taking that one step further, providing critical care anywhere that Albertans may travel across Western Canada. In a worst case scenario, STARS is your best hope. Next slide. So I'm sure all of you heard about our announcement with Alberta Health Services that we now have another long-term 10-year affiliation agreement in place for block funding this time. Previously, we had a 10-year agreement from 2010 to 2020. That expired, and then during the COVID years, we were year to year ever since. So that was at 20% government funding. So this is a huge step forward in our partnership with Alberta Health Services at block funding of $15 million per year. So this still leaves us roughly 56% of our operational budget that must be fundraised. This does not include our Emergency Link Center, as well as education and training and some administration costs. So over and above, we are very grateful and thankful that we have a long-standing 30-plus year STARS lottery that generates usually just over $10 million net each year in order to help offset those costs. And then if we have a lot of long-standing, 30-plus year community events, many that are represented on the helicopter as well as many corporate partners that help to make up that extra fundraising. It's not an easy task as a charitable entity to be raising more than $20 million every year. Next slide, please. So this is just to show you a little bit about the Municipal Initiative Program across the province. So Currently, just last year, we have added 9 more rural municipalities, municipal districts and counties, as well as 14 more urbans, so like Rocky Mountain House, for example. Currently, rurally, we have 94% of Alberta is in partnership. We have 75% are regional leaders. So let's look at a little bit of this map. The gray areas show the rural partners that are contributing less than $2 per capita. Mainly, we've been asking at a minimum a $2 per capita commitment each year, recognizing STARS as part of your emergency protective services or an additional option for your residents. That is who we work with every day, is emergency protective services. The navy blue now shows you all the partnerships that are contributing anywhere from $2 per capita up to $90 per capita each year. We are a line item in their budget. The teal green represents our 9 municipal leaders. So they have achieved more than $500,000 in total support cumulative over the years, up to $3 million. They all are represented on STARS helicopter, as well as the fact that we are a fixed rate of support. Many of these are in the $100,000 to $200,000 per year range as a part of their emergency protective services. Last year, we welcomed Sturgeon County, and this year in June, we welcomed the little tiny county of Birch Hills. So they are now represented on the helicopter as well. So the white areas will show you the remaining rural areas that are not current supporters of this program, but they do have requests in front of them. And now we have the opportunity with a grown team to be able to reach out to more of the urban sector, building regional partnerships. So those are in the red outlines. There are 16 in total that are complete regional partnerships, meaning that every town and village that lies within that county's boundaries is also a supporter of STARS along with their county. So that gives you an idea of where we're at. It is very much a united effort across the entire province to ensure that we all have access to a robust health and safety network. Next slide, please. I wanted to bring you, this is almost 5-year overview of mission statistics within Clearwater County. So Clearwater County itself has been a significant long-term supporter of STARS. You can see that we cover many different areas of Clearwater County and Rocky Mountain House, your critical interfacility transfers. These are when, there may be outlying scene calls. That patient has taken by ground ambulance to your local hospital, and because it is of a critical nature, then STARS is called to intervene and get these patients to tertiary care. Of course, you have scene calls as well. So combined between the IFTs and your scene calls, Rocky Mountain House has about 40% of missions that are flown throughout Clearwater County. Clearwater County itself, in total, averages about 55 missions per year. And you are very fortunate that your residents are served by 2 STARS bases, Edmonton and Calgary. Next slide, please. So this is 10 years in the making, this postal code project. Let's look on the left-hand side first. This was utilizing patient postal code only, no other patient information, other than the postal code where they lived at the time that they were flown by STARS. So this gives you, we were able to access data back to 2010, so showing that for Rocky Mountain House, there has been a total of 194 residents that possessed a Rocky Mountain House area postal code, includes rural residents as well. And these are the locations. The blue dots represent the locations listed below as to all of the residents within Clearwater County boundaries. So a total of 258 residents in total within the county area. But when we look on the right-hand side, the red dots represent all of the areas where these residents were flown by STARS. So you see the blue outline of Clearwater County boundaries and all of the red dots that are outside of that area. 258 total residents flown, 156 were picked up in Rocky Mountain House. 102 of these residents were flown from 35 other locations across 2 provinces. This is a testament to the value of partnership in the fact that your residents have access to STARS from IR6 bases across Western Canada, wherever they may travel and need STARS. Next slide, please. Shannon.
Good morning.
Morning.
So as you can see in the photo, this is our Emergency Link Center, which is located out of our Calgary base. They work closely with 911 and they handle the logistics and coordinating critical care response 24/7. They receive over 37,000 emergency requests per year. And as STARS is the dedicated critical care provider for Alberta, we are also responsible for dispatching HALO and HERO in northeastern and southeastern Alberta as well. And I know everyone is familiar with the red helicopter, but at STARS, we are transport agnostic. So however the crew has to get to the patient, whether it's ground ambulance, fixed wing, or even providing virtual care, that's what we can do. One example would be if there was a patient taken to your local hospital and STARS was called, the transport physician could be providing guidance to your local staff while we're on our way. And then once we have the patient and we're on our way to the receiving hospital, we can provide them further information to have the OR ready. So we can just bypass the ER. So it saves precious time on both ends. And speaking of saving precious time, I'd like to also acknowledge that because the town of Rocky Mountain House has a helipad, that allows us to do helipad to helipad transfers, which also cuts down on the time and gives the patient an even better chance of survival. Next slide, please. So we recently upgraded our helicopter fleet to the new H-145s with custom medical interior, enabling the aircraft to be a flying ICU. Each of our bases have 1 helicopter that acts as a primary, and then we have 4 available that are rotated in through regular maintenance. And STARS is a proud medical leader. Our team is equipped with the right tools on hand, such as night vision goggles. We were the first civilian organization in Canada to receive permission to use them, and half of our calls are at night, so it's vital to our operations. Next slide, please. So on this slide, you can see this is the back of our helicopter. And as you can tell, there's not much room for extra items that aren't part of the life-saving mission. So I'm just gonna go through a few of the pieces of medical equipment that we use. Here, there's a handheld iStat lab, and this can give us vital test results in under 2 minutes, and that is important for the crew to administer pain medication to the patient and stabilize them. Next slide, please. And I'll just give you a quick overview of these guys. So our Hamilton T1 ventilator can be used on any individual from neonatal to adult. Universal blood on board. We were the first ones in North America to carry blood on board. It was 2 units, now it's 4 units. And just new as of last October, we have our blood protocol, which if you have a patient that is losing a lot of blood, over 2 units, we could administer this, and it reverses the effects of anticoagulation, thank you, Glenda. And it promotes blood clotting, so it gives us more time to get the patient to the hospital. And the video laryngoscope, I was fortunate to see this at the Edmonton base, not on a real patient, on our simulator, but it is incredible. There's no guesswork involved, and when they have a severe trauma patient from burns or crushed on impact, it's very important that they get it in the first time. Next slide, please. So the EZ-IO drill provides immediate IV access for pain management and stabilization. The handheld ultrasound was a game changer to provide rapid diagnosis of various life-threatening injuries. And the pain management drugs, the thrombolytics, necessary for stroke patients. So we also have those on board as well. Next slide, please.
And in closing, so we'd like to say that partnership. Sorry. In closing, we'd like to say partnership is very important. It is key to our existence. There are many different levels of partnership, and the municipal program is a significant part. Your area benefits from about 55 missions per year. These are all areas where your residents will travel throughout the county, whether it's for work or for play. As well, for 55 missions per year alone, we're looking at, it can be up to as much as $500,000 per year in mission-related costs. This is why the Municipal Initiative Program was born, was just everyone working together to ensure the access to a robust health and safety network. We are able to provide physical as well as virtual care now. So this is an additional asset to your local hospital and your medical professionals by being able to have that opportunity to provide procedural and medical guidance virtually. Together, we will continue to enhance rural health care, and this is a vital aspect. When people living rurally that are not, that are more than 45 minutes away from tertiary care, like, it is absolute paramount that STARS can come and we bring the intensive care unit environment right to the patient. Critical care begins as soon as we reach the patient. Your residents have access to STARS 24/7 across all of Western Canada, where we have the 6 bases: Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, and Grand Prairie, also serving northeastern and southeastern BC. Always remembering that there is no cost to the patient. This is the largest aspect of it and the reason for the partnership. We're currently, we have surpassed more than 60,000 missions flown. We're currently averaging 11 missions per day. I just looked at the report from yesterday. There was 18 missions. So it's like, it's growing. It's continuing to grow. In the very beginning of STARS, we flew 50, 60 missions per year in the first couple of years while we were getting integrated into the system. Mm-hmm. Last year we flew almost 3,500 missions. Oh. Partnership is the key. A life is saved every day. So we kindly ask for your consideration to join our municipal initiative across the province. We're asking for the minimum $2 per capita. As you saw on the map, the majority, we have about 75%, they're at a minimum of that. Your Clearwater County is over and above that. We are actually, they've went to a fixed rate of support in their budget each year. So we're asking you to build a regional partnership with your county, as well as to join the entire province in this effort that together we will continue saving lives. So thank you very much for your consideration of our request.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do we have any questions from council at this time? Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I'm just curious, how many helipads, like hospital, have helipads in the province?
I don't have the exact number, but I know there is a significant amount of communities, especially more through the central and southern areas. I work with a lot of municipalities or towns that are wanting of a helipad if they don't already have one. We're really grateful to you. I know that there were many challenges for Rocky Mountain House throughout that to have a helipad here. But statistics do show that towns that have helipads, that we are increasingly more able to help and assist your areas because of that. You're alleviating the fact that we have to tie up your other emergency resources, so they are always available for other calls. We are alleviating all of the considerable patient transfers, which can be devastating to a critical patient, especially if they're intubated as well. So, it was a massive, I can't even think of the word, but it's unmatched in what you're able to do and provide for your residents by having a helipad. We thank you for that. Most helipads are located on hospital properties, so they are through Alberta Health Services. There were a few that had to do some upgrades, so there are still some throughout central Alberta that are working on some upgrades. We have several that have completed upgrades over, let's say, the last 5 years. Recently, Diamond Valley had, they completed a helipad there. There are some communities that they did not meet the Alberta Health Services criteria in order to have a helipad that's provided by Alberta Health Services or within their budget. So we have several communities that have gone over and above, that they did their own fundraising. Didsbury, for example, that they, wanted to have that helipad in place, so they did their own fundraising. And I have more communities that I'm working with that way. So I'm sorry I don't have the exact number, but I would say the majority are throughout central and southern Alberta and working more with communities in northern region to build helipads.
Do we have any other questions this morning? Oh, go ahead.
When our airport is used for medical, I don't know what the terminology, does that have something to do with STARS, or is that a completely separate, when they're doing medical transports and things like that?
Well, there will be at times that maybe the fixed wing support might be needed as well, so there will be ground ambulance to fixed wing. That's also a key entity, and again, this would be where if it's deemed critical, then our transport physicians out of the Emergency Link Center will always be involved. So they will be determining what is the best mode of transport for that patient, what is the best receiving facility for that patient, and whether or not that patient is going to require trauma surgery or the cardiac cath lab, or these types of things. So that is all coordinated through the Emergency Link Center and with our transport physicians as medical procedural guidance over all critical calls, regardless of the mode of transport. We also do have our crews that at time, if it is critical and requires our team, that our team will also go on ground ambulance with that patient or on Alberta Health Services fixed wing as well.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you, ladies, very much for coming in this morning and for your delegation.
Thank you for your time
Thank
and
you.
your consideration.
No problem.
We did bring you, the brand new calendar is out. It's really a great read, lots of tidbits in there over the 40 years, and the latest newsletter, and of course some information on our Vigilant program, which is originally the site registration program. A lot of municipalities utilize this as well. Each year, if you have, let's say, for example, an annual rodeo, any kind of event on a weekend that may involve trauma, this is a great tool for municipalities to have that $6 per day for a weekend that you have direct access to STARS and the transport physicians immediately. So a lot of municipalities use this just for their public events. And then, of course, we have lots of homestead farmers and ranchers that use it. If they have a permanent residence, that they can have that as well. And there's a very minimal cost to that when there's no change in your location. So I would appreciate that you kind of look into that for some of your areas when you may have a public event. And we did bring you a set for your fire department as well. Please pass that on, because we can't do what we do best without them.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You as well. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving ahead in the agenda, we have the adoption of the previous minutes. Did the minutes look okay to everybody from last time? Councillor Schipel?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I also move those minutes as presented.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. So delegation business. Do we have anything that we want to talk about? Mr. Krause?
Just to advise council, so council has the supplementary service policy where organizations apply, and the council reviews them at the service level. And STARS has applied through that process.
Okay.
So it'll be coming to service level council's consideration.
Okay, perfect. So we're just looking possibly then for motion for information at this point? I think, or go ahead, Councillor
Thank
Schiffel.
you, Mayor. Mr. Kraus, do we presently fund them to with any amount at this point?
Acting Mayor to Councillor Schiffel, no, we don't.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or conversation about this at this time? Councillor Schiffel?
Just a ballpark number as to what that would look like at $2 per capita that they're requesting.
Approximately $13,000 to $14,000.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion if we don't have more discussion on this. Go ahead, Councillor Phillips.
I will make a motion to accept the STARS delegation as information.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. So moving ahead, 8.1 old business, we have the McNutt subdivision next steps. Mr. Kraus, can I turn that over to you?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. So, council has engaged the residents of the McNutt subdivision through a survey initially and then a public meeting. From that public meeting, administration has drafted reports with pretty much the same information that was provided at that meeting, plus options for council. So we'll leave it for council's debate and decision.
Okay, thank you for that. So do we have any discussion on this item? Councillor Schiffel?
Acting Mayor, so in the report from August 1st that the administration had done, one example they did give us is a minor change and the addition of a subclass, which wouldn't cost us a whole bunch of money. And I think the example given would cost us about $9,648, and that would look at giving a bit of reduction for 3 items being sidewalk, lights, and something else in there. So where I'm at is knowing those residents all came to an open house. I would be in favor of doing a subclass for that area, as administration suggested in their report, which isn't a big number, less than $10,000 in reduction overall for that whole area. I think something is better than nothing, and so that's where I'm at. I just open that up to see how my fellow councillors feel.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any other discussion on that? Councillor Musker?
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm really pleased with this report. Whoever was involved in putting it together, thank you very much. It's very comprehensive. I hope that the residents of McNutt took the time to look at this information. It's not based on speculation, it's facts. And so I would not be in favor of a subclass. I would recommend that the residents of McNutt avail themselves of the services of the assessor if they're concerned about what their properties are assessed at.
Thank you for that. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I can see both sides of the equation on this, and everyone looking at this matter from different perspectives. Of course, the residents of McNutt are looking from one perspective, and there's a different perspective from the rest of the community. Just a question for Mr. Kraus. The $9,648 of tax dollars, it says in the report, does not include consideration for the non-taxable properties. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Well, so throughout town, there's, well, I think it's close to 19% of all properties in town are non-taxable. So each of those properties have roads, streetlights, sidewalks in front of them. And in fairness, us as a community, we each chip in money to support those non-taxable properties. And those are hospitals, schools, churches, parks, playgrounds, town buildings, county buildings, and so forth. So if you were looking for equity, I guess, in a subclass, you would want to take a calculation that everyone contributes to that, because those are services that are provided to the entire community. So,
Thank you for that. Do we have any other discussion? Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you. I would agree with Councillor Musker on it. The report answers all the questions. It provides all the information that people would need. And I think, again, I see both sides of it. But there's a big portion of residents that are paying the full rate and wouldn't be included in a subclass that haven't had their say in the matter. So I wouldn't be in favor of a subclass.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, thank you. One thing I do see in here that I agree in is the gravel removal from the ditches. I know that is one thing that was brought up at the open house, that it was a concern, and I do see in here that we have something pertaining to that. So I do agree that the gravel in the ditches is something that should be addressed, because that is kind of addressed in the community itself in the springtime once all the snow is melted. So I would like to see that for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. For myself as well, I don't necessarily think that a subclass is necessary. I do think that there are services that could be improved upon, one of them being what Councillor Phillips had just mentioned with the gravel in the ditches. I also like the thought of reducing the kilometers per hour in the subdivision down to 40. I know myself, when I drive through McNutt, I'm not driving at 50 kilometers anyways per hour, so I think 40 is definitely reasonable, because one of the things that we also did here was the speed of some that go through there. So I think that we have some options here that will hopefully make the residents in McNutt a little bit happier. But I don't think that a subclass is necessary at this time. Do we have any other discussion? Councillor Phillips.
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that council instructs administration to provide the services of removal of gravel from the ditches for residential properties that contain a ditch in the boulevard in McNutt subdivision.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion? Councillor Hutchinson.
Just wondering if there's a financial implication on that, and if it's something that we discuss at service level, or if it's just a minor cost to the municipality.
So, Acting Mayor, I'm also, Mr. Shanks and I have discussed this, and we feel we can put that into our operational duties. More likely, it'd be when our summer students start. One of the first tasks would be at the beginning of May, is pulling that gravel out or using that piece of equipment to get it out. Just in further to that, with Councillor Phillips' motion, to provide the equal service among our citizens, the removal of gravel would not be simply McNutt. We would also take in Old Town and the road by Rainbow Ford or whatever. But so it's just not McNutt that we'd be doing it. We'd be providing the service through similar type of residential areas.
Okay, thank you. So maybe a slight amendment to your motion there, Councillor Phillips.
Yes, I can amend the end part to say the town of Rocky Mountain House.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. Just wondering if anyone wants to make another motion in regards to the kilometers per hour. Councillor Musker.
I will. I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that council instruct administration to change the speed limit in the McNutt subdivision from 50 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Councillor Schipel?
Yes, Acting Mayor, I didn't hear that comment made at the open house that they were looking for a speed reduction. I just want to know the purposes to the speed reduction as to why we would do that. I know we have it in Creekside already, so just reasoning why.
Yeah, so acting mayor to Councillor Schiffel. Actually, it was a citizen that approached me and another councillor to talk about the speed in there, particularly, well, the main complaint was the garbage truck. Figure it was speeding in McNutt. And realizing, I mean, we did have discussions with the provider on that, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is 50 kilometers in a residential zone is fast. So especially on a narrow road. So if they're doing 50 or picking up a garbage can and speeding up to the next one, they're probably maybe hitting 50. It just appears to be fast. So with the reduction to 40, we're hoping to alleviate that concern that there is speeding in McNutt. We did a trial project in Creekside by reducing it from 50 to 40 about 5 years ago, and it works well. It slowed down traffic. Plus also in the enforcement side, when a peace officer sees someone going 55 in a residential zone, even though they're going 5 over, they would not be successful in issuing a ticket there. The courts would just not grant that. They generally, there's that 10-kilometer type of forgiveness in the court system for speeding. So if the speed limit is dropped to 40 and someone's doing 55 in a residential zone, now that ticket sticks. You know, now it's enforceable and we could slow the traffic down in that residential area.
Councillor Schiffel, just as well, when we were at the open house, there was a gentleman that had made that comment about the garbage truck in there in the speed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. If we've already talked to the supplier there, it's really not a thoroughfare. In Creekside, you can go right through Creekside. So I think there's a difference between Creekside and McNutt in terms of what's going on there. I'd be hesitant in decreasing the speed there. I'm just not sure we're going to accomplish anything much there. So.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you. I think there were a few concerns brought up at the open house with not feeling safe walking down the road because there is no sidewalks, and the transition from the road into the ditches. I think that maybe dropping it to 40 may alleviate some of that concern as well, and also the concern that there's no streetlights. So if they're going 40, they're not as likely to be endangering themselves.
Do we have any other discussion on the motion that's on the table? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and call that to a vote. Those in favor of the motion? And none opposed, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to 8.2, we have the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw amendments. Welcome back, Ms. Hartling.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm not going to reiterate all of the points of the report, but I will just point to the fact that there's 2 bylaws that would be impacted. Well, there'd be the creation of an amending bylaw under the land use bylaw, and then there would be a new bylaw, which that's the Subdivision and Development Authority bylaw, which would be created, which would then repeal the previous bylaw, just changing the authority. So I will kind of go briefly through that bylaw 2024-12, just to kind of outline what the changes would be. So all references to the Municipal Planning Commission or relevant portion are removed. Definitions are added for applicant, development officer, director of planning and community development. Under Section 3, the subdivision authority establishes that the director of planning and community development and the development officer are authorized to exercise subdivision powers and duties on behalf of the town in accordance with the Act and regulations of this bylaw. Under Section 4, the Development Authority establishes that the Director of Planning and Community Development and the Development Officer, as well as Council for a Direct Control District, are authorized to exercise development powers and duties on behalf of the town in accordance with the Act and regulations of the Land Use Bylaw. Under Section 5, the responsibilities of the Subdivision and Development Authority are outlined similar to Section 8 of the existing bylaw, including a portion that addresses pecuniary interests. Under Section 6, references the requirement to provide notice for where an appeal lies and the reason for the refusal. Section 9 refers to the repeal of the existing bylaw. Subdivision and Development Authority Bylaw 1822V is hereby repealed. So taking into consideration the report and comments from the public during the public hearing and the information that I provided earlier regarding the one email just requesting information and a second individual who came into the office on another matter that expressed opposition. Council is seeking, administration is seeking council's direction on this.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Hartling or just in general? Councillor Phillips?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a comment. You know, obviously when the land use bylaw was put in place many years ago, one of the goals of putting in that land use bylaw was to decrease the amount of MPC meetings that we're having to allow administration to be able to have more latitude in making decisions. And it had that effect and definitely has reduced the number of MPC meetings drastically. And, you know, we're always being asked by, you know, when we're at AB Munis and things like that, the government is always asking us on ways to reduce red tape, make the development process quicker and more efficient and more streamlined. And by doing this, we will accomplish that. We don't have a lot of MPC meetings throughout the course of a year anymore. And I think looking at the other, you know, the data in here that shows that the municipalities, there's a mix of some that do have MPCs, some that don't. I think this is just a natural progression, and I would be in favor of this.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Do we have any other discussion on this? Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you. So there's been comments about the voice of the people not being heard. So just for clarity, and Councillor Phillip mentioned this, the MPC meetings have been fewer and fewer over the years. And just to clarify that the MPC decisions that were being made were based on a variance above what's in the land use bylaw, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so having said that, I mean, our land use bylaw is fairly solid. It's pretty much, like Councillor Phillips said, has been redone and it's not questionable anymore. So just kind of the comment that the people, there's other ways of going about it, like you said, with the subdivision appeal board. It wasn't the MPC board that was making decisions on every application that came through.
So the MPC was making all of the subdivision decisions. The development, really all we were taking to MPC regarding development permits were applications where there was a significant variance. So last year we had one subdivision application that went to MPC and one development permit that went to MPC, and it was for a variance on a fence.
Do we have any other discussion? Otherwise, there's a few resolutions here that we can look at doing. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 2024/12, a subdivision and development authority bylaw which would eliminate the municipal planning commission and streamline and reduce red tape for subdivision and development applications as presented.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. Councillor Schiffel?
Do the next resolution, if you'd allow me, Acting Mayor.
Sure.
Let it be resolved, the council give third and final reading to bylaw 2024/12.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor And none opposed, that is carried. Councillor Hutchinson?
Be it resolved that council give second reading to bylaw 2024/13, a bylaw to amend land use bylaw 2020/19 to eliminate the municipal planning commission and streamline and reduce red tape for subdivision and development applications as presented.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. And Councillor Musker?
Yes, I'll present the final resolution. Be it resolved that council give third and final reading to bylaw 2024/13, a bylaw to amend land use bylaw 2020/19.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Acting Mayor and Council.
Thank you so
Have
much,
a
Ms.
good rest of the
Hartling.
day.
You too. Thank you. Okay, so moving ahead, we are at 8.3, franchise fees for ATCO. And we have Ms. Quinlan coming up to join us. Good morning, Ms. Quinlan.
Good morning, Acting Mayor and Council. So last council meeting, we presented the franchise fees, and I was asked to bring it back with just some more information regarding what the impact of an increase in rates would be. So the ATCO franchise, it is the same briefing note, I've just expanded it. Currently, we use a 30% delivery tariff, and I was able to get a listing of all of the other municipalities and what their rates were. Those are attached, as well as I did try to sort them into numerical order, just so you could see, you know, how many are at 35 and what the rates are in a descending order. So when I looked at it, and on the second page of the briefing note, basically a 1% increase would generate $24,000 for the town. If we went up to up to the maximum of 35,000, it would generate about 120,000, and be an extra $258 per month per customer. Now, and I do touch on this in the Fortis one, but that increase would basically be spread over properties that are taxable, as well as any non-taxable properties. When I did the Fortis, I wasn't able to do the ATCO, but it looks like about 23% of our assessment is non-profitable or non-taxable. So that increase would be spread out between those two types of properties. Is there any questions?
No questions for Ms. Quinlan at this time? Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion if someone would like to make one. Councillor Musker?
I'll make that motion. Be it resolved, the council approve the 2025 ATCO Gas and Pipeline Limited franchise fee at the existing rate of 30%.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that, Councillor Schipel?
Yeah, I'd like to speak against that motion. I would like to see an increase, even if it was 1%, from 30 to 31%, $16,000. I don't think we should stay stationary on this one. It gives us revenue from non-tax paying properties. So I think that we should bump it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I agree, I don't know how to explain this. I agree with Councillor Schipholt, but I also think we should keep this rate static, but look at the next rate on our next agenda item at the Fortis rate. Because I believe we're at the higher end of the rate on this one, but in the Fortis one, we're not at the higher end. And I would like to look at that one to achieve the goals that you're talking about, to maybe look at that rate as opposed to this rate. If I made myself. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Hutchinson?
I would lean more to what Councillor Schvelt's talking about with some type of an increase. Again, to capture some revenue from the non-tax, or the properties that aren't paying taxes, it kind of levels it out. So I would be in favor of some sort of increase and not in favor of the motion.
Councillor Phillips.
Sure, thank you. I guess there's two different ways of looking at this. You can look at this one and then you can look at the next, because these two agenda items are very much intertwined with each other. My thought process was to leave, you know, and I know we're talking about a 1% increase on this one and potentially that for the next one, but I was thinking to leave this one static and maybe go with a 1.5% increase on the next one, because we are a little bit lower on the next one. That's just my thought, and I know I'm jumping ahead to the next agenda item, but they're kind of tied in together. So I'm not opposed to the thought of that. Just the way we achieve it is what I'm looking at, that's all.
Okay. So there is a motion on the floor, so I will go ahead. If there's no further discussion on that, I will go ahead and call that to a vote. So those in favor of the motion on the floor, and those opposed, and that is carried. So moving ahead, we have 8.4 franchise fees for Fortis.
All right, so same sort of discussion with this one. Currently, we charge 15.3%. And looking at the different tables, I think the maximum is, pretty sure it's 20%. So if we, I'm just gonna go to, I'm gonna go to the last paragraph of the briefing note where I really look at what the impact is. So looked at, it's about 24% of non-residential assessment. So an increase of 1% of, which is equal to a 1% tax increase in franchise fees, would only impact taxable properties by 74,000. So it's going to be spread out a little bit more. This is an estimate. I do want to say that because I can't identify the consumption of non-taxable properties. So if they were actually consuming more than sort of their equal share of, or average share of the franchise fee, then it would actually impact, it would lower the impact even more on taxable properties. So you do get a bigger impact because the rates are slightly higher for Fortis. So any questions?
Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No questions, just this is the one that I wanted to look at. This is the one that I believe should go up by 1.5%. That would kind of be my thought process on this. That way we're leaving the other one static, but we're moving at this one. So my thought process is raise this one by 1.5% to 16.80%.
Councillor Musker.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. I would like to see this one increased as well, but I'm thinking along the lines more of 2%.
Okay, so 17.3 is what you have in mind?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion on this? Councillor Schippo.
I would be in favor of the 1.5% increase in this one, and I'd be prepared to make that motion if you'd allow me to.
Sure.
That the council increase the 2025 Fortis Alberta franchise fee by 1.5% to a rate of 16.8%.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor of the motion and none opposed, that is carried. Thank you, Ms. Quinlan. Okay, so moving ahead, we are under new business now, 9.1, the airport lease rates adjustment. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So the idea or concept of review of the lease rates at the airport has been with the ICC for approximately the past year. I think it was initiated late last year. They've asked administration to provide comparisons and recommendation for a rate increase for the leases at the airport. That was presented at the last ICC meeting, and the ICC has recommended to both councils to increase the lease rates as suggested in the RFD, which private aviation, commercial, and non-aviation all have different rates. For council's information, these rates would come into effect when each lease is renewed. So currently, each lease is for 5 years, and it's fixed at that lease rate of $1.11. And then when it's renewed, this is when the increase would come in, and that'd be a staggered effect depending on the individual's lease.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any questions or discussion on this? Councillor Musker?
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. These are significant increases, but they are not out of line in any way with what other airports are doing, so I'm in favor.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion on this? Councillor Schippel?
I'll just make the motion if you'd allow me,
Sure.
Acting Mayor. Let it be resolved that council approve the revised lease fee structure as presented.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? If not, I will go ahead and call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. And so then moving ahead, 9.2, we have the airport fuel flowage fees policy. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Again, this is a recommendation through the ICC to council. So under the current policy, the municipalities charge a fuel flowage fee for fuel sold at the airport or used at the airport. Under the current policy, it simply says the leaseholders of the airport shall pay this fee. Administration put a recommendation forward to the ICC that be changed to airport users, not just leaseholders. And the justification or the reasoning behind that is, so this last summer, there was a lot of helicopter companies that were utilizing the airport for firefighting purposes and brought their own fuel in, and so they were not charged the fuel flowage fee. So to keep it fair and equitable among all users at the airport, by changing the terminology to airport user, the airport can charge these fees to the temporary users of the airport.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any questions or discussion on this? Councillor Moose? Oh, maybe not. Anybody? Councillor Schippel?
I just wonder if there was any discussion at ICC about the airport authority looking after fuel sales themselves versus a third party.
Go ahead, Councillor Hutchinson.
That was mentioned, and there was a contract that's in place by the existing provider right now. I believe 5 years left, Mr. Kraus? Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess it was a general conversation at ICC, because currently there's a private company that provides fuel at the airport. So, I mean, I think it'd be a bigger discussion among ICC if that was really a consideration of both councils, if they wanted to go down that path. Because, I mean, the options that both municipalities would have to consider is, one, do you buy out that private supplier now? Do you go in competition with that private supplier? Or so it's probably a bigger discussion and more focused discussion than what happened at ICC last time. Is that captured from the ICC member? Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
No, that's good.
One of the concerns that I've heard out there is the price of gas, that the third party who's supplying gas out there is significantly higher than what they can buy it at other airports in the surrounding area. And in some cases, people fly to other airports to buy the fuel because of that price difference. So I think it may be worthy of having a discussion as to someday that contract will run out, And when it runs out, should it be something that the fuel supplier changes?
Councillor Hutchinson and then Councillor Musker.
I was just going to say that, is that something that this council would like to see brought up to the ICC meeting at a future date?
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councillor Chappelle. I think it's something to consider, but maybe not at this point in the contract term. But let's keep it on our radar.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any other discussion on this? Otherwise, I'm looking, Councillor Chappelle.
I agree with you, Councillor. I think that's what we need to do, is make sure it's still on the radar. And understanding that, then I'd be prepared to make the motion, if you'd allow me, Acting Mayor.
Sure.
Let it be resolved, the council approve the airport fuel flowage fee policy 012-02024 as presented. Hopefully I got that out. It's like a mouthful of marbles, that puppy, so.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. I think we will take an opportunity right now to have a 10-minute break and Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're back from our break. So moving ahead in the agenda for correspondence for action, we have 10.1 Circular Economy Month Declaration. Mr. Kraus, if you'd like to.
Yes,
speak on
thank
that?
you, Acting Mayor. So this is a request for us to declare this month the Circular Economy Month. It's works well with part of the programs and initiative council's put forward with the recycling organics and the APR discussions and our promotion on that.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any? Do we have any discussion on that item? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion. Go ahead, Councillor Hutchinson.
I'll make the motion to the town of Rocky Mountain House to declare Circular Economy Month this October. Is that sufficient?
I think that sounds good. Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. And then 10.2, we have the Parkland Regional Library System proposed budget for 2025. Not sure if you want to speak on this, Mr. Kraus, or Councillor Phillips, since he's on the board. Whoever would like, go
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So yeah, this is the proposed Parkland Regional Library Board system budget for 2025. One thing of note to look in here when you're looking at the budget is the numbers used for population in 2024 were Treasury Board numbers, and the numbers used in 2025 were municipal affairs numbers. This has resulted in some municipalities having a decrease in population and some municipalities have an increase in population because they're using different stats from the province. Some background history to that is municipal affairs stopped updating the numbers back in 2016 or so, and the Parkland Regional Library Board system decided that they had to use some more current numbers. In the library agreement, it says to use municipal affairs numbers. However, that was switched a few years back to use Treasury Board numbers. Since then, municipal affairs has now gone back and used updated municipal affairs population numbers. So Parkland Regional Library Board for this budget cycle is using municipal affairs population numbers, recognizing that it's going to make a difference in some municipalities, ours being one. That it changes the population quite a bit in some municipalities, and that's going to be, some municipalities are going to have bigger increases than others because the numbers are back to municipal affairs. The overall budget increase is actually quite minimal, but it's harder on some municipalities than others because the numbers have switched back to municipal affairs population figures. But overall, the request that's being asked isn't unreasonable, and I'd be in favor of it.
Thank you, Councillor Schippel.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. To Councillor Phillips, it's a 10% increase in the budget. 10% is substantial. But I don't think we can't say, no, we're not going to pay that amount, correct? We get billed and that's what we have to pay? Is that how that works? Or is there any way we can say, well, whoa, our population number went up, when in fact maybe, that's another question about population, but I just have a concern about that number. I appreciate they're using two different numbers for population, but in fact what happens then is when you extrapolate that out to a 10% increase, I don't know if I'm overly excited about that.
Go ahead, Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you. So in order to pass the Parkland Regional Library Board System's budget, once 2/3 of the municipalities have voted in favor of the budget, it happens. There's no changing it, it actually happens. So we can't change the request of us. We can either accept this or not accept this as a budgetary item. As I said with the municipal number, the Treasury Board numbers and the municipal affairs numbers, in essence, for the last few years, maybe the town of Rocky Mountain House has been paying less as a benefit of having the other numbers. I know it's a hard pill to swallow for this particular year. And having said that, there's a lot of municipalities that are going up and down because of the numbers switching over. And it's unfortunate. The overall increase for the Parkland Board is less than 2%. So really, the overall budget for Parkland is appropriate. Unfortunately, by changing the population numbers back to what's actually in the agreement with the municipalities is what's causing part of our larger increase this year.
Okay, thank you. I guess I have a question on process. So if I'm reading this correctly, it's looking like for the town of Rocky Mountain House, they're looking for an extra almost $5,800. So when we have these requests, like, is this something that should go to budget or like should go somewhere that we have a closer look at this, or?
So we are members of the Parkland Regional Library System. So, and they have that process where their administration would present a budget to the board. Then that budget goes out to the municipalities, and as Councillor Phillips said, those municipalities either accept or reject that budget. If 2/3 accept, then we're stuck with it, I guess is the way to put it, and we would have to put it in our budget. So council's decision today is either to accept the budget or not. If council does not accept the budget, we would advise Parkland of that. If they do, we still advise them, because they still need that 2/3 vote to approve it. But if 2/3 of the municipalities within there accept it, then
There's no question.
There's no question.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, so just a little bit of extra information on this as well, is because the libraries, this is for, we have this one, and then we have the Rocky Library budget coming up right after this, is both of those bodies need to know sooner than later, because if there is modifications that need to be done to a budget, they need to attain that and have that done before December 31st. And when you're dealing with, I believe there's 56 municipalities that the Parkland Regional Library Board serves. That's why it's out early, and we have to make the decision on this now as opposed to our typical budget cycle, which is in December. That's why it's earlier.
Yep. Oh, that makes sense, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you. So on a go-forward basis, is the municipal affairs population list the one that will be used?
So according to the agreement, that is the numbers that are supposed to be used for population figures for the Parkland Regional Library Board or system. Having said that, if municipal affairs decides to stop updating those numbers in 5 years' time, we'll have that same problem again. So I can't say yes or no, but it's in the actual agreement that those are the numbers we use. So as long as they keep getting updated properly from municipal affairs, then the answer to that would be yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other discussion on this item? Otherwise, I am looking for a motion, please. Councillor Phillips?
I will make a motion that we accept the 2025 Parkland Regional Library Board budget and accept it for budget 2025.
Is that motion clear, Mr. Kraus? Sounds okay? Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor of the motion and none opposed, that is carried. So moving ahead, 10.3, we have the Rocky Library Board Public Member Reappointment. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. So really, this is basically a housekeeping item. So the provincial government has identified that we appoint our public members at the October organizational meeting, and we appoint them for 3 years, and we stay at the end of a calendar year. Under the Public Libraries Act, it says you can only appoint a public member to a maximum of 3 years. So by us appointing at the end of October, they're saying we've over-appointed these members by 2 months. And they have asked us to correct that and just reappoint the members.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any discussion on this? Otherwise, the motion that we're looking for is at the bottom of the page. Counselor Musker.
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you. Be it resolved, the council appoint Mimi Cole and Tom Hanel to the Town of Rocky Mountain House Library Board with the term to expire on December 31st, 2026.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Oh, Counselor Phillips? Oh, sorry. Okay, seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. 10.4, we have the community grant application from the Rocky Connect Club. I'm not sure if Mr. Kraus wants to speak to this or Miss Breeze. Go ahead.
I can. Thank you, Acting Mayor. So it's a grant application from the Canets. I think it's for their Christmas event. So looking for council's approval or decision on the grant application.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this? I don't see personally any issue with approving this one, but if anyone else has anything else they'd like to say, Councillor Phillips?
No, I agree with you 100%. This is a very, very good event that the Kinsmen and Kinnets put on every year. I think it's something that we definitely should support, and I would like to make a motion that we approve the $1,000 grant to the Rocky Connect Club.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. 10.5, we have the Rural Health Professions Action Plan Dinner and Tour invitation for October 16th, 2024. So I personally am not available on this day for this, but if anybody else from council wishes to attend, I think that would be okay. It just looks like I'm not sure when they need to know by, although it does say they know that. Oh, I was looking at the wrong, yeah, okay. So if anyone from council wishes to attend that function, Councillor Schippelt?
Sure, I would be prepared to attend that. Should I reply to them or personally or directly?
Do we need a specific motion that lists each one individually, or can we leave it kind of to whichever councillors are able to attend to let administration know by this date? Okay. Councillor Hutchinson?
I wouldn't mind attending as well.
So, yeah, Councillor Phillips, go ahead.
If we're done with discussion, I'll just make a motion that those council members that are able to attend this event can attend this event.
Okay, thank you for that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. So 10.6, we have the Rocky Chamber 2024 Community Business Awards event, March 7th, 2025. Still a little ways away. I'm not sure if this is more for information purposes or if they're looking for people to start RSVPing already.
Yeah, and Acting Mayor, there's a request that greetings are provided by the town, so I think they just want to confirm that the town will be in attendance and the Acting Mayor will provide greetings.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, I think I've been to this each year that they've put it on, and I would, as long as nothing comes up between now and then, I would like to be in attendance again as well as anybody else. So again, is this just kind of the motion that whomever is available to attend can do so? Councillor Schippelt?
Yes, Acting Mayor, I will make that motion that who is available to attend this function to let administration know.
Okay, thank you for that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. And then we actually tabled 10.7. So looking ahead now, so correspondence for information, is there anything between 11.1 and 11.6 that anyone would like to bring up or speak to? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to accept as information. Councillor Phillips.
I will make a motion to accept items 11.1 through 11.6 as information.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. And moving on to our action list for October 1st, 2024. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. So the first one, Parkland Regional Library, Council requested them come as a delegation for a presentation, and that's in progress to set a date. Council, the next one, Frisbee Golf Locations Administration is currently working on that, and we are trying to get that back to council early November is our target date there. The next two are the franchise fees, which council dealt with today. Further on down, the Youth Advisory Council, so that's a discussion at the service level for council to see how they want to proceed with that. Next one is the MPC, which council dealt with today. The next one is the airport terminal building with the foundation. That assessment has been done, and we are looking to bring it to ICC for next steps. So basically, to let council know, the foundation inspection showed that the foundation is in good condition. It needs some repair, but it is well suited to be built on or the building renovated on. So
Okay.
we'll be looking for direction on how town and county want to proceed on that building. The next one is the National Historic Site discussions. That's to service level. And the final one is the RCMP federal complement discussion. Just to let council know, I'm still waiting on the report from the RCMP on the allotment of officers, either on the provincial side or municipal side. So I am hoping I have that this week. The staff sergeant said she would be pushing for that to get to us this week. So.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Kraus in regards to this? Otherwise, I am looking for a motion. Councillor Hutchin, Councillor Musker. Go ahead.
I'll make that motion, Acting Mayor, that we accept the action list for October 1st, 2024 as presented.
Thank you so much for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? No? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. So, do we have any administrative inquiries this morning? Councillor Chappelle.
I have a couple. I'm not sure if it should be a notice of motion, my first one, and it's to do with population. We've had a bit of discussion about population. I question whether the time has come that we need to do a review of our population within our community. If it's growing, that'd be great. If it hasn't grown, then we need to stay away from it. So I'm not sure if we have any measures that would tell us whether it's the appropriate time to do a census of our community or not. And when did we do the last one? So I'm not sure if that's a notice of motion in terms of bringing a report back to councillor, or if you would set me in the right direction, Mr. Kraus.
So acting mayor to Councillor Schipple, I am unsure when the town itself has done its own municipal census. I mean, it's definitely before I came here, so that's going on 7 years for sure. And it's kind of gone back and forth because under the MGA, we used to be allowed to do municipal census and that'd be recognized by the province. They changed the MGA, said no longer will they accept municipal census, but now they reverted back saying they will accept municipal census. So, but that would be a budget item for council to consider if you wanted to do a municipal census. I think it would be advantageous because we're unsure of our population ourselves. Because we get Stats Canada population, we get municipal affairs population, we get the finance department's population, so we fluctuate between 6,400 to 6,800 in between those three. but that would be a discussion or decision of council if you wanted to undertake a municipal census, but that would probably be a budget item, probably around $10,000, I would guess. Depending how we do it and if it's volunteers and stuff like that. So I guess to answer your question, yes, that would be either a notice of motion or a request for discussion at service level, and we could bring it to service level.
Okay, the service level binder is significant now. Can we add another page to that service level binder in terms of a discussion around doing a census within our community?
Yes, we can.
Not that I want it, but, okay. Second question has to do with the historical park and the trail system out to it. The trail system is getting narrower and narrower with the grass built up, and now it's to a point, and most of it out to the park is 8 inches wide or 9 inches wide. So I'm not sure if that is something as well that we need to discuss about doing something with our trail system. A lot of people use our trail system, and maybe it's a time that we looked at, and this could be another service level page. Sorry. To have a look at the trail system out to the park. I mean, we've talked about how important the park is, iconic to the community. Maybe we need to make sure that the trail system out to it is adequate for people to bike, walk, do whatever they so choose out of Rocky to the historical park. So here again, Mr. Kraus, is that a notice of motion, a page in the binder for the service level review, or is it already in the makings?
Acting Mayor to Council Shipple, to answer the last part, no, it's not in the makings. It's the bicentennial trail, and it takes you from town out to the National Historic Site that was developed several years ago. The odd part of it is the town installed that trail. We do minimal maintenance on it. I think once a year we go out and just kind of check it and do any scrubbing or whatever. But it's also within the jurisdiction of Clearwater County. So I think there's probably a bigger discussion there, because I know in talking with the county to see if there's a partnership there for that trail. I know they're also, very heavy into trail building, especially from Northgate to Rocky. And I think they incorporated a trail system on the river road when they advanced that up to the North Saskatchewan River Park, so it all fits. So I think it's a great discussion to have with the county to get an overall plan with that. So I don't know if that's up to council to discuss that, if you want to discuss it at service level for more discussion on it, or do you want to send it to see if you want to discuss it at a future ICC meeting with the county, or we can increase the budget and ask the county to allow us to improve it in their jurisdiction.
Thank you. My suggestion, having heard that, would be that we do put on a service level review just for discussion, and from there possibly take it to ICC for a partnership with the county to see if we can do something more with that trail system. I mean, I think trail systems sell communities, and I think in this case, leaving it the way it is today doesn't make sense. It's sort of there. I think it just needs some tender loving care. If that would work, we go through that process. Service level and then to ICC.
Yeah. I think that sounds good.
Does that need to be a motion?
Okay. Any other administrative inquiries this morning? Any notices of motion this morning? Okay, so we are then moving into closed session. We haven't been back from our break for too long. I don't know if we need a break or just 5 minutes to clear the chambers. Thank you. Okay, so we're just going to make a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Chappelle?
Yes, thank you. If you would allow me, Acting Mayor, to make a motion that we move into closed session.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. Thank you. So we are just coming out of closed session, and we have a couple of resolutions coming from that, so I will turn it over to Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for item 15.2 that we direct administration to move forward as per discussion in closed session on the medical clinic.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. And then Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion 15.3 CAO dialogue to be accepted for information.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. So with nothing left on our agenda for today, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.